In this chapter, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about blogs and how we can actually use these on the platform to more effectively make our presence known on the web. Now, blogs are often used by companies to not only make themselves known on the web, but sort of solidify their voice or their authority when it comes to any particular topic. So for example, you have some businesses who are primarily working through blogging as their primary advertisement. For example, you may have that sister-in-law who writes those blogs on Facebook or perhaps on their own blog about how awesome essential oils are. Or you may have companies writing on different topics so that people will look to them and say, hey, such and such a company knows what they're talking about in these areas. Maybe they know what they're talking about in this particular area as well. With the Livingston Hotels and Resorts, that's exactly what we're trying to do with the Livingston Life team. They are writing blogs frequently talking about best places to go, which hotels are where, 10 tips on things that you can do in preparation for a vacation, or maybe 10 places that provide the best vacations, or different things along those lines. And by establishing that authority online, we now gain a reputation for not only providing services like hotels and resorts, but also being willing to help out those who are considering vacations or something along those lines. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we would actually manage blogs on the platform. In Liferay, there are three main strategies for how to go about presenting blogs to users. Okay. Now, obviously, these are on the platform itself. Now, there are other ways, of course, where we can share our blogs across the internet, for example, through social media. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But on the platform itself, what we're looking at are these three options. There are the user blogs, organization blogs, or site member blogs. Okay. And this is just in terms of where you want to actually present the blogs or write the blogs, and they can be displayed elsewhere on the platform as well. So the user blogs are going to be blogs that are written on a user's own profile. So if you have the user profile set up, they can have a blog widget on their profile, and they can just write blogs. And you can actually take those blogs and aggregate them and display them elsewhere on the platform. Additionally, you have the ability to take organization member blogs, aggregate them, and display them elsewhere as well. Now, the organization members still need to write blogs on their user profile, but there is an option in Liferay, which we'll look at a little bit later, that allows us to take specifically blogs from an organization and display those rather than individual users or all users. Okay. The same is true for site members, except for a site member, they can actually write blogs on an individual site. This would be as simple as placing a blog widget on the page and writing blogs. You would just have to have site members who have the permission to do so, and then they can write those blogs and have them update on that specific site that they're working on. All right, so creating a blog in Liferay is relatively simple. All we need to do is go into the blog section of the site administration panel, click add, and we have the ability to add things like a cover image, title, subtitle, as well as actual content for the blog as well. And we can actually use the Alloy editor in context of our blogs to give the formatting we need and make it as presentable as possible. Okay. Like I said, things like application display templates can help with the presentation of blogs, but we have some ability here to do some of our own editing as the bloggers ourselves. Now, I've mentioned the Alloy editor before, but I haven't really gone into a lot of detail about what this is. The Alloy editor is essentially a WYSIWYG editor built on an older CK editor. And what it essentially does is it allows us to obviously write and do some inline changes as well. So we can do inline formatting changes. We can change the font. We can do any sort of basic styling or formatting that you would expect from most text editors. In addition, we also can take advantage of the ability to add images from docs and media. We can add YouTube links, and also we can do things like add columns and rows and separators as well. So this gives us a little bit of flexibility when it comes to writing our blogs. Now we also have Liferay's image editor that we can take advantage of as well. And this allows us to not only add images into our blogs outside of that cover image, but it also allows us to do some more editing. We can do things like filtering, rotating, or we can even crop our images as needed as well. All right, so this is something you can do in the Documents and Media repository if you edit an image, and then we can take those and place them on the blog as well. All right, now when it comes to displaying blogs, like I mentioned, there is the typical blog widget. I've mentioned before that if we have an asset, we have a corresponding widget to actually display the asset. So we can take advantage of that. And what that allows you to do is configure the display settings, communication settings, as well as a few others. Now the display settings allows you to change how the blog is displayed, which social bookmarks to display, as well as what metadata you actually want to have on display as well. Communication settings are for actually setting some parameters so that your blog's widget can interact with some of the other widgets on the platform as well. And then you have things like sharing and scope. Now scope is going to determine where the blog is displayed from on the platform, and sharing is going to be configuration for actually sharing it with social media or external websites. All right, additionally, we have the blogs aggregator, and this is a widget that we can use that allows us to work with those different strategies that I talked about earlier. So if users are just writing blogs on their profile, if we have organization members writing blogs on their profile, or even if we have site members writing blogs, the aggregator can allow us to determine where we want to get our blogs from and then display those specific blogs there. We also have things like display style we can change, the maximum items to display, as well as RSS. We could set that up as well if you want to provide an RSS feed for the blogs being written and published on your site. All right. Now we have something called adaptive media that is now built into Liferay, and this is essentially an application that takes images that you upload for your blogs and converts them and can control the different sizes so that it is presentable on any screen that you are reading the blogs on. Okay, so this gives the widest accessibility for your blogs being read on any different mobile device. Let's go ahead and recap what blogs are and how we can use them on the platform. Okay, there are 3 different strategies for how we can go about writing our blogs. We can just allow our users to do it on their profiles. We can specifically allow it for users in a particular organization, or we can just write blogs on a site and display them in the site in which they are written. Okay. Once the blogs are created or written, published, we can go ahead and use some different widgets to display them. So we talked about the blogs widget, as well as things like the blogs aggregator. Okay. We can also use things like the asset publisher, which we'll see shortly as well. All right, and then we have adaptive media built in that's going to help control the presentation of your images across mobile devices. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and actually generate some of those blogs for the Livingston Life. Now that we have our asset publisher set up, we also have our application display template on the asset publisher. Now we just need to get going with some blogs. So let's go ahead and start writing some of those blogs.